Hello world, welcome to Rex Arthur TV. This is the Rex Arthur Show where we discuss LGBTQ issues with an LGBTQ approach and an LGBT perspective in an LGBTQ plus planet where each and every one of us belongs to one or two letters in the LGBTQ plus LGBTQIAAP spectrum, the 10 letter sexual alphabet. And we're going on with the New Lines podcast, The Right to Be Female. And it's a very nice podcast to listen to, especially on this Women's Day, because it is making very many feminists and everyone to really think, who is a woman, and who is a man, and because of the new sexual sciences, the advancement in sexual sciences, the whole definition of about a man and a woman is changing, and has changed because in the past we used to define men and women externally, but we've realized that people are actually internal beings, and it is injustice to ignore the internal sexual infrastructure of a human being. Yes, it's injustice because, number one, how will you deal with that person whom you think is a man but is actually a woman? How are you going to deal with them? How are you going to gain from them? You have to. You see, you gain from something when you know them, and that's what people need to understand about the world. Okay, so let's go on with the remaining part of the video. So, I mean, the podcast. So, of course, in the part one, we looked at the fact that transphobia is also it's a Nazi feature, just like homophobia. Yes, and then secondly, we looked at the life of Elijah. Elijah was born a girl, but became a trans man. And then you have also now there's another lady who was born a man and now became a lady, went to India for surgery, and this is what the feminists are tired about. They are not happy with what they are calling is self-identification, that people just wake up in the morning and say, I want to be a woman, and that's the war that's happening in the whole issue of identifying as a trans person. So let's listen in for what they are saying.
Okay, just so you know, you're breaking the bylaw. Female swimming pool.
God forbid I ever got into prison, I would go to a women's prison.
Feminists are against moves to make the process Sue went through to legally change her gender easier. Concerned self-identification could be abused, compromising female-only spaces and eroding women's rights.
So there is the argument of feminists. They are saying that if people continue self-identifying as different transes, as a trans person, especially a trans woman, there will be danger of infiltration. And it's a very interesting fear, because I'm just laughing because of how, these days the world is so interconnected. So it's so interconnected. Everything is one. So also in Britain, Britain is the main country in football, and it's very interesting that there is what you call the wall of fire. Whenever you play in football, when you have a free kick, they allow the opposing team to defend itself by creating a wall. But in the past, you could put pockets of your team in that wall, so that in case the ball goes anywhere, the player, your teammate can score the ball. So right now, the FA has changed the rule and has said that you can let the players, they will only the players from the opposing team will make up the wall, and none of your teammates will make up the world. So this is similar to the feminists' view that they don't want infiltration of female spaces by people like trans women, because to them they don't think trans women are women. So that's what you need to understand about that. So let's finish what the podcast is saying.
In North London, a group of women are waiting to make a splash, posing as men to invade the male-only pool.
Okay, just so you know, you're breaking the bylaw.
Female swimming pond there, male swimming pond here. That's the way it has always been.
They believe the idea of self-identification, the ability to tick a box to be seen as a woman in the eyes of the law, is ludicrous. The stunt was organised by Hannah Clark.
We protest about bathrooms and we protest about those aren't the big deals, are they? It's places where women are vulnerable that are a big problem. So prisons and hospital wards and refuges are a massive issue. It's been in the news, hasn't it? Ian Huntley could get a gender recognition certificate and get a new birth certificate, become to all intents and purposes a woman and be housed in the female prison estate. If anyone can be a woman, what is to protect a woman in a woman's state?
So that is Hannah Clark talking, and she was one of the leaders that went to invade a male-only pool, or a pool which designates one side for males and one side for females. So they pretended to be males, and they pretended to be males, and they went to the pool where the males were, and you had all the cussing that was there. It was because of that the men were not happy that these women were invading those spaces, and the women's justification was, hey, you also are doing it by allowing trans women to come and call themselves women and get new birth certificates to be women. So that is the war that is happening in the West mostly, and it's good to look at it because it's going to affects everywhere, and that's why we're looking at it. It's an International Women's Day, and these are the issues, as you've heard Hannah say, that why should you protect women if everybody is a woman? And that's what you need to understand. There is basically no problem having an all-female space. Neither is there a problem having an all-male space, and neither is there a problem having a man come to a female space, and neither is there a problem for a woman going into a man's space. However, if, like in that swimming pool, if that swimming pool has a rule that only males should come to that side, then let it be only males. And if it's only females, then let it be only females. But this is the catch, and this is where the problem is. Who is a man and who is a woman? Because if Hannah Clark went there with a penis, transplanted penis, like these days you can get a penis, are they going to deny Hannah access to the pool because her penis is transplanted? You see, that's the war we are in right now. When a trans woman goes to the pool for women and they check and they find that instead of having a vagina, she has a penis, but she's a trans woman anyway because hormonally she's a woman, because she has a lot of estrogen and very little, and her testosterone levels are that of a woman. Will they refuse her from swimming because she has a penis? So this is the discussion we are in right now, and I'm telling you, sexual identification has changed. It has changed, and the world is at a point whereby it's trying to understand. Look at what's happening in athletics. Athletics are now allowing trans women with penises to run with women with vaginas. And I agree with them on one basis, that internally those trans women are actually women. hormonally, they have the levels, the same hormonal levels as that of a woman. So why deny them the chance to run? Because Semenya is a woman has a vagina, but she has testosterone even higher than some men. So hormonally, she's a man. So she's running with women. But because she has a vagina, they have allowed her to run with women. But that's the war with the IAAF. They are wondering, should we allow a hormonal man to run with hormonal women? That's the argument in the case between IAAF and Semenya. And then Semenya is saying, I have a vagina, so why should I be refused to run with women? Don't women have vaginas? So the whole war is definition of a man and a woman. And this International Women's Day, we are leaving you to find out, what do you think? How do you define a man? How do you define a woman? Now that you've learned that it's not your external organs that define who you are sexually. There is more than that. It's the hormonal infrastructure. Is the internal sexual organs. You can have an ovary, just one ovary, and you have a very big penis. So what are you? Are you a man? Are you a woman? Are you an intersex? So that's what we are discussing. Well, of course, a guy who is like that is an intersex, but but he's an intersex. What does it do to his sexuality? Whom does he desire? You know, he may desire to be with men. Yes, and what does that make him? That makes him a homosexual. Yet he has an ovary. You see. So this is why I've said the identities of lesbian, bisexual, and gay, they have nothing to do with who you are. They have everything to do with whom you have sex with. If you have sex with a man and you are a woman, that is heterosexual sex. But if you are a woman and you have sex with a woman, that makes you a lesbian. But it has nothing to do with what organs you have inside. See, that's why it's so messed up. It's hilarious, thoroughly messed up. But don't worry, it's going to be organized very soon because we are discussing.
It actually feels quite painful to have a group of people who are campaigning against your participation in everyday life.
We went to Manchester to meet Jess Bradley.
I identify as a non-binary woman.
She says the objections to trans women accessing female spaces just don't add up.
Trans people disproportionately face domestic violence and sexual assault. We need access to services. We've had the Equality Act for the last 8 years, and that's actually the act that allows trans women to enter women's spaces. It's a long time for these abuses to take place, but they haven't. The evidence isn't there.
It wasn't easy finding Jess. Most trans people we approached were reluctant to speak publicly, some scared of repercussions, others refusing to appear on a programme alongside the feminists.
Trans people are very, very scared of talking publicly about trans issues. Like, I know that simply by doing this piece of media that I will be hounded on social media. It's actually a really hostile time for trans people. One of the things about the Gender Recognition Act debate and consultation is that it's kind of given license to anti-trans activists to kind of spark a public debate about trans identities and trans people in a way that has felt very violent.
And there's hostility on both sides. These are trans activists protesting outside a feminist meeting. They're shouting TERF. It stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. Across the country, clashes are erupting between the two groups. Hannah is at a meeting of women who feel they've been excluded from the discussion about changes to the Gender Recognition Act.
So many problems in the past when we've announced venues ahead of time, where trans rights activists have phoned the venue over and over again asking them to no platform us because they consider us a hate group. Oh, brilliant.
One woman told us how she'd been attacked by a trans activist at another meeting who was later found guilty of assault.
I'm still angry about the assault, I'm angry about the trial. My anger could lift a bus. In fact, I understand that gender dysphoria is a very, very serious and upsetting thing, but they cannot actually be women. The most they can be is what we call trans women.
Or pro-lesbian position.
And there's more trouble at today's event, this time over lesbian rights.
You're gonna check me out, yeah? Fair enough. Right, do it.
We just don't get to leave.
Lesbian is a sexual female. And I'm so sick of this.
Do you think that there is a lot of transphobia going around this evening?
I don't think so generally. I think most people in the room are forward-thinking people that are trying to get their heads around, the nonsense in society.
And at this year's London Pride, protesters also disrupted the parade, claiming the trans movement is anti-lesbian.
Beautiful segment we've listened to, though very sad. You can feel the emotion. You see, sexuality is a very, very emotive topic. Yes, you have to really understand that. And when you confront someone about their sexuality, yes, this is a warning to people who attend those discussions like they attended. They have to be very well prepared for anything. Yes, it's very emotive. Even here in Kenya, when they were having the decrimination case, there was a danger of people going to attack each other. The homophobes wanted to come and stage a protest, and the gay community said, over our dead bodies. And so they went there in numbers. They completely infiltrated the courtroom so that the homophobes do not even have a chance to come and deny them their rights. So it's a very emotive subject, very emotive. And I always warn homophobes not to address or confront sexual issues like you can confront any issue, because you will see the emotion of the person. You've just seen that lesbian woman screaming, because the other woman is attacking her sexuality, and that's why Sky News is even talking about this thing. It's because it's very emotive. So sorry about that, but on the positive side, it's a beautiful segment because you've heard very clearly what they have said about how they view trans women. Let me just even play it again.
And at this year's London Pride, protesters also disrupted the parade, claiming the trans movement is anti-lesbian.
Yes, that's what I wanted. I wanted to get that point from the interviewer. Oh, the reporter. So she's saying, like in last year's Pride event, the lesbians were fighting the trans women because they believe that trans women are anti-lesbian. And let me tell you, to some extent it's true. It's not that they're anti-lesbian. Lesbians worship women. Straight women worship men. Yes. Or straight women can also worship women, and that's what makes them feminists. But there are also straight women who worship men. They love a man. They love a man's structure. They love a man's body. They love a man's character. They love his calmness. That is what some women love about men, and those are patriarchs. Now, the lesbian women worship women, especially lesbian. It's very hard to find a lesbian who worships a man. Extremely. In fact, I don't think it's not that, because a lesbian is a woman who sleeps with a woman. She adores a woman. Now, it is very understandable that a lesbian can find a trans woman a bit antagonistic to her lifestyle, because especially a trans woman who wants to be with men. Yes, it's understandable. And for lesbians, they feel like, oh no, we don't want people who, especially the feminist lesbian, not the lesbian. You see, there's a lesbian who can understand a trans woman, and I've liked another term they have used in the video, the feminists who are trans inclusory. These are feminists who do not exclude trans women. So they are feminists who can include trans women, to call them women, not because of their objective sex, but because of their gender. Because they are women, they accept them. Not accepting them on the basis of whom they have sex with. But for some lesbians, they judge people according to, especially a lesbian feminist, she may judge somebody based on whom a person has sex with. So it's very funny. So that's my understanding. That's why some lesbians will find them to be lesbians would find trans women to be, or trans men. Yes, because if you have a trans man, you can be a trans man and you want to sleep with men. Yes, you've got your penis, or you still have your vagina, but most of the trans men I know get a penis. And I'm going to talk another video about penis envy. It's gone because you can now get a penis. Yes, all you people who are trans, who are penis envy, hey, you can get a penis. And it ends you lose the whole penis envy thing that Sigmund Freud wrote. Sigmund Freud, I love him to boot. To boot. He was a great psychologist and sexologist, because he studied women very well, and he also studied men. But the way he took time, the way he studied women, I really congratulate him. And that's what he's the one who found out the concept of penis envy. And at that time, there was no time for people to do surgery. Why I like him is because when I was studying some feminists, there's one who makes me very happy, Shulamith. And she wrote a book. She was a radical feminist. And she wrote a book that was saying, I've forgotten the title and I put it on my other Twitter. And she said she's waiting for the day when there will be an artificial womb. So I started reading that woman psychologically. And I realized this is a woman who didn't want to have a womb. So the question could be, was she a trans man? Mostly Shulamith could have been a trans man. Yes, she really did not like the fact that she was a woman. And that's what made, and the question now we bring to feminists, is it that radical feminists are actually men trapped in women's bodies? Yeah. And it even gets better when the feminist is a lesbian. She wants to sleep with women. Yes. She wants to be with women. She wants to have sex with women. And then she comes to say, you know what? I even don't want to have a womb. Yes, I don't even want to carry a baby. Yes, it could be. When I read Shulamith, I just said, this one. She was just a trans man. And so, for Sigmund Freud, whenever he sees such women, he just says they are suffering from penis envy. They want to be men. But also Sigmund Freud was deficient of sexual science studies, because at that time human beings were not discovered DNA, and what I mean by DNA, the double helix, leave alone just knowing genetics. Mendel already did that, and that was even before Sigmund Freud brought up most of his theories, though it was around the same century and time. So because of that, but Sigmund Freud could at least tell there was something that happens to some women, that they desire to be like men. Or if it's not a desire, they feel like men have a very easy ride. They don't carry babies. They just have sex. They can have sex how many times, but a woman, she has to carry a baby. So these women he was seeing who had that anger and that bitterness of being a woman, he then talked about it as penis envy. Of course, we'll do a video about that after this. This is International Women's Day, so we have time to do those videos. All right, let's go.
I'm absolutely shocked at the level of vitriol, the level of silencing. Even asking for the discussion is thought of as transphobic.
Dr. Heather Brunskill-Evans wrote a book on trans children. She's on her way to speak at an event where again she's met by opposition.